Hello and welcome to our next video. In this lesson, we're going to take the time to change a few of the things about the way our project was built. Now, you technically wouldn't have to do this. You could probably get away with not doing it. You would just need to add data tables.js to your scripts directory and put that in your bundle at some point. But what I'm going to do is take you through a lot of what's going on behind the scenes by actually deleting and redoing it in a way that I believe personally lines up better with what other developers would also like to see. Now, if you're all working in a .NET shop, perhaps leaving it in scripts and content folders is exactly where you want things to be. But we're going to change things around a little bit. So make sure you have your contact web open, of course. Let's just expand this a little bit so we can see it more clearly. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually delete the content directory. And you say, well, my bootstrap's in there and my site.cs is in there. Yep, that's correct. So we're going to go ahead and just delete all this stuff. If you want to keep some of those settings, you notice that the body has a padding top of 50 px. Now that's going to be important because of the way Bootstrap works. And so we'll restore all of this as we go, I promise. But what I'm going to do is just go ahead and right click and delete content. And I'm going to right click and delete scripts, which also has a bunch of stuff in it. You can see an older version of jQuery comes along, jQuery validate, Bootstrap.js is in there, some modernizer, response are in there, and some other things. We're just going to delete all of this, and we will restore what we need. Now the views and the models we'll learn about later. We're going to leave those alone. Fonts are going to actually come in again when we get Bootstrap. So we could delete these. I'm just going to overwrite them later. And then we'll have controllers as well, and we'll leave that alone. What we'll be working with when we start restoring is going to be our bundle config here. And we'll get to that in a later version. But we've cleaned this up a little bit. We have our startup, which actually just launches everything. We have our web config, where we'll do some settings perhaps in the future. These are where the settings live for a bunch of different things that go on with your application. And ultimately, that is kind of how everything is configured. Now, right now, we don't have any JS or any CSS installed. So if we tried to run this, it may run, but it'll look awful. So again, we're going to need to continue on. Let's start. One thing I want to say is that if we're going to add stuff to our project, always create it with Visual Studio first and then import it using the tools in Visual Studio. If you just drop it in the directory and try to add it to the project, if you don't have a folder and it's inside of a folder, Visual Studio will tell you the folder's already created, and it's really annoying. So at least at the startup level, if you're going to be making different folders, make sure you do that through Visual Studio. And you can do that by just going to Add, New Folder. And so we're going to create one called CSS, where we're going to store our cascading style sheets. We're going to create another one called JS, where we're going to store our scripts. And we're going to create another one called images. So I did them all with lowercase letters. That is more of a web standard. C# and .NET a lot of times use capital letters. And so that's just a little different there. But you'll see now our CSS, JS, and images folders are ready to go. And now we need to start restoring. So we'll start with that, and we'll pick up where we left off in our next video. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.